Well, good day from beautiful East Central Missouri. I'm going to burn a little gunpowder today through what I think is a really, really cool gun. And I missed two, but that's all right. The H&K P7 used to be called the PSP, the Police Service Pistol. This one is the M8 variant. These guns are pretty unique in that they were developed at the request of the German Federal Police, I think after the Munich Olympic shooting in like 72. And they had Walther PPK 32 caliber pistols, or PP, I think, 32s. And after that shooting, the German Federal Police put out a request for a new service pistol chambered in 9mm. And the requirements were it had to be less than 1,000 grams, I think, and I'm not real good at conversions. And it had to be ambidextrous, and it had to be safe. So this gun was developed, I think, in 1975, I think, by a guy by the name of Helmut Welde, designer from H&K, and he came up with the P7. And the original one was the PSP, and it's pretty much the same gun as this, except it had the Heal magazine release, which is pretty contemporary for European guns, and it did not have this heat shield. And we'll talk about that heat shield here in just a second, because that's might be an important piece of something to know about. These guns, I know maybe the Utah State Police and the New Jersey State Police, they issued these things for a while. And I think it's a really, really cool, very versatile combat pistol. The M8 is the second variant, and the reason that they changed a couple of things, they put this heat shield on here because they figured out that this part of the frame gets really hot, and I'll tell you why. So this gun the barrel is fixed, and it is what's called a gas-operated delayed blowback. It's not a locked breech. So there's a piston down here, and when the gun goes off, a little bit of gas from in front of the chamber goes down into a gas tube down here, and there's a piston on the bottom of this slide that fits into that gas tube, and that tube fills up with gas, puts pressure on that piston to keep the action closed until the pressure gets low enough that the gun is safe to open and safe to cycle. Because if this was direct blowback, the shell casings would be blowing in half and all kinds of stuff, because there's a lot of pressure in the chamber of these things whenever they go off. But this gun may look a little odd to you, but so this is the P7 M8. It's called the squeeze cocker. So the trigger does nothing. So this is a striker fired gun. So like on a Glock, right? When you pull the trigger, the trigger bar moves the striker back and then eventually falls away and lets the striker go forward. So the trigger is actually pushing the striker back. This gun, when you grip it, see on the end, that pushes the striker back. So that cocks the gun. The trigger does nothing but let the striker go forward. That's it. So basically you get a striker fired gun that is totally safe. It takes about 8 pounds to squeeze this. You can't accidentally squeeze that. You have to have a good solid grip on the gun. So it takes about 8 pounds to squeeze that, and then you get a real nice, probably 4-ish pound trigger pull. I would equate this trigger pull to be as good as some 1911s that I've shot. The gun's nice and compact. It's big enough to use as a duty pistol, but I've been carrying it. I picked this up about a month ago, and I've been carrying it, and it is very nice to carry. It's thin. It's not very tall. It weighs the same amount. It's 28 ounces. It weighs the same amount as my Kimber Pro Carry 2 with the alloy frame. So not an overly heavy pistol. 8+1, so you get 9 rounds. And super accurate, right? Because of the fixed barrel, these guns are just crazy accurate. And this probably looks ugly to some people. I think this thing is a work of art. This gun was manufactured in, I don't know if you can see the date code on the slide there, 11 of 92. These went out of production. I think the M8 went out of production in 2000. And I think the M13, which was a double stack 13 round gun, stayed in production until 08. So started design in sometime in the mid 70s, went into production in 79, was adopted by the German Federal Police, actually got adopted. Oh, by the way, here's the reason they changed, one of the reasons they changed the design. This gun was one of the entries for the U.S. Army trials when they adopted the Beretta. So they did away with the heel magazine release on like the original and put in, I call it a paddle, right? So it's ambidextrous. It's on both sides of the gun, but it's not a typical button that you push in. It's I call it a paddle. You kind of push it down, really. See if I can get around here. You can see that one moving. So very intuitive to control. I can get to it with my thumb pretty easy. And the other cool thing about this is when the magazine locks back, when you run the gun dry and you do a mag change, all you have to do is squeeze the grip and you're ready to go again. Pretty cool. These things are kind of sought after. I think, well, the gun and the magazines, I've got right at $3,000 tied up in this. So not for the faint of heart. I shot my first one, and I'll tell you why I sought this out. I shot my first one of these in 1995, I think. And back then I was a young deputy, had kids, and I had just bought a brand new, my first duty pistol was a brand new Smith & Wesson 686 L-frame revolver. And a guy that I worked with that I knew as a copper, he had one of these that he carried as a duty pistol. And I'm like, that's a weird looking thing. And we went to the range one day and I shot it and fell in love with it. So, but even back then when these were in production, so I bought my Smith & Wesson 686 for like $285, brand new. And that was a lot of money back then, especially to a young deputy that had kids. These things, even when they were in production, were $700 or $800. So it was just totally out of reach for me. And then here a few weeks ago, I had an H&K rep get a hold of me, and about a month and a half actually ago, 2 months ago. And my office is shopping for kind of evaluating new long arms, because a lot of our patrol rifles and duty rifles are 35, 40 years old now. So it's probably time to start thinking about getting new stuff. So the H&K rep heard about that and got a hold of me and said, hey, I'd like to demo some H&K stuff for you. I said, absolutely. So they brought a bunch of stuff to my office, and jokingly I said, hey, can you get your hands on a P7? I'd really like to shoot one of those again. And he said, oh yeah, I've got a bunch of them. I'll bring one for you. So I got to shoot it that day and fell back in love again, right? So now things are a little different for me. My kids are grown and gone. I'm in a much better place financially. So I went out and found this and bought it. And then I bought 4 more magazines at $100 a piece, because they're like made out of unobtainium or something. But by the time it's all said and done, I've got about $3,000 tied up in this gun and the magazines. And I thought my wife was going to kill me. She found out that I bought a $3,000 gun and about died. So it's well worth it to me to have something that I've wanted forever. This is kind of a grail gun for me. This was on a list of things that I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get my hands on. You can see, and I'll tell you this, there's a mill mark on the slide right there. So according to my HK guy, this was probably a Bavarian police gun that they mill the state logo off the guns before they trade them in. So this was a police trade-in, manufactured in November of '92. And you can see finish-wise, The sharp edges are in good shape. The squeeze cocker, it's not all scratched up where it's been squeezed a whole lot and fired a bunch. When you take it apart, the internals look pretty slick and pretty nice and still have a lot of the bluing on them. And I don't think this gun's been reblued because it does have some wear marks on it, but not what you would see from a heavily used police gun. And I've said this 1,000 times, most cop guns are carried 1,000,000 miles and fired like 5 times. Just an absolutely soft shooting gun too for a blowback gun. Absolutely a super pleasant gun to shoot. They did have a 13 round variant, the M13, P7 M13. They also had the P7 M10, I think, which was 40 caliber. And they tried to market that to the American police forces. But, you know, the problem with H&K has always been, and I'll say this, I joke with my wife, and this is what I told my wife whenever I bought this gun and she found out about it. I said, honey, you like German cars. She loves German cars, and that's what she drives. I said, I'm to the point now where I like German guns. And this thing is, when you take it apart and look at it, it's just kind of a thing of beauty. It's machined very well. Everything, it's a nice, clean, I think this is a clean look. It's got clean lines, but the feel of it is, it's super comfortable in your hand, even though you got to squeeze this thing. And I have a tight grip anyway, so squeezing this is not a problem for me. It's very instinctual for me, and then I get a really good trigger pull out of the deal too. You know, I think this gun is probably one of the most shootable guns that I've ever had in my hands. Probably my favorite semi-automatic pistol of all time is the H&K P7. Uh-oh. We messed around and knocked down the tombstone down there. But, you know, if you've never shot one of these, if you can ever get your hands on one, if your friends have one, something like that, by all means, try to get your hands on one of these and burn some powder through it, because it is absolutely a wonderfully engineered piece of gear. Shoots soft, like I said, shoots soft for a blowback gun. And I've shot some H&K, the newer stuff, the USPs and things like that. And the thing that I never really liked about them was the bore axis seemed really high. The bore axis on this is very low to your hand. I mean, you can see that it is super duper low, and that gives a lot of straight back recoil and not a lot of muzzle flip. So winds up being a super pleasant gun to shoot, super accurate gun. Most people probably don't want to take a $3,000 gun and carry it, but I'm gonna. No skin off my back. It's worth what it's worth, right? And this is one of those guns that collector value is probably going to be my kid's problem, because I'll have it forever. So anyway, feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comment section, and I'll try to get back to them. If you've got, and if I didn't cover anything about this gun that you may know that I just didn't bring up, I tried to bring up the high points. And so the frame's getting a little warm right there from the last couple of magazines that I ran through it, but it's not uncomfortable to touch by any stretch. But again, they put that heat shield on there because they knew that the U.S. Army, when they submitted it for trials, was going to be just dumping rounds through these guns. So they put that on there to keep you from getting unpleasantly warm there on the frame. But man, if somebody were to ask me what is the perfect combat 9mm pistol, I think it'd be the H&K P7, either the M8 or the M13. The M13 is a lot fatter because it's double stacked, but this, for me, I think this is probably I would define it as the perfect combat pistol. So anyway, give me your thoughts, give me your comments, and again, from beautiful East Central Missouri here in Audrain County, have a great day.